Hello again, everybody. I'm Snapper Lancaster, welcoming you to our first edition of the Central Alabama High School Sports Show in 2018. Yeah, the time is flying by. It seems like we're almost halfway through another school year. And of course, we've just come off the Christmas and New Year's break, and hoping you and your families all have had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. Now it's back to business, as the old saying goes, with our high school sports. And tonight we've got an interesting show, and I hope you're going to enjoy it because I've got two outstanding guests. One is one of the finer football coaches here in the Birmingham-Jefferson County area, who has had a very successful career at 2 or 3 schools already and is fixing to move on. And I'll let you know who that is. He's going to be our first guest of the evening, so you'll have to stick around to see who it is. And in the second half of our show, we've got the outstanding sports writer for AL.com, Josh Bean. Josh does a fantastic job covering high school sports, and we'll be talking about the football championships that were won or lost here in the Birmingham area, because we had a chance to win 3 championships this year in the high school football ranks and here in the Birmingham-Jefferson County area. And we'll be talking about that. Plus, it's time for the winter sports, which means indoor track, boys and girls basketball, wrestling, bowling. We'll be having coaches from all these sports in the next few weeks as we travel through the winter segment of our high school programming. So we've got a great show ahead, 2 outstanding guests, going to have some great information to share with us, and so we look forward to that. Once again, as we do all the time, we remind you, please frequent our sponsors, because without their help, our show wouldn't be on the air, and we've been lucky enough to be around for a good many years now. We're closing in on 20 right here on our show, and so once again, thanks to our sponsors. But folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our first guest of the evening. Don't you go away.
The community features a world-class resort and spa, the amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course, miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. No, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
The next time you need electrical work, whether it be commercial or residential, you need to call Huffman Electrical Contractors, a company that's been in business for over 35 years. They've served clients not only locally in the Birmingham area and all over the state, but have clients outside the state of Alabama as well. Whether it's a new building or remodeling an older building or home, they can handle the job for you. Once again, that's Huffman Electrical Contractors. The number to call is 205-661-5005. That's 205-661-5005. Where at Huffman Electrical Contractors, a satisfied customer is always their #1 objective.
Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven. A taste of heaven is always best. Now you know that you're blessed. Give your taste a whole new spin. Bring your friends and come on in. Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven.
And folks, welcome back. And as we were talking about in the opening, going to be visiting with a coach that very successful coach here in the Birmingham-Jefferson County area, has been for many years. And through the years, we've cultivated what I would call as a close friendship for 2 reasons. One, because it helps if you like each other, but 2, we both in the same kind of business. Our paths have crossed a few times. And of course, I'm talking about Keith Etheredge, the outstanding ex-coach now. And in the second segment, we'll talk about why he's going to be the ex-coach at Pell City, and we're going to be going somewhere else, but we're not going to go there right now. You're going to have to stick around and see the second segment. But Coach, as we get into this, and as you and I have talked about a couple of times already, I had forgotten all those years ago when I had you first on my program that it was as a basketball coach at Irwin High School.
Yes, sir.
And because all through the years I've just connected you in football and had forgotten that. And so for people that may be seeing you for the first time, tell us a little bit about your background and how it has led you to the schools that you've been to, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I started off my career at Irwin High School. Got hired on there by my high school basketball coach, and I was assistant basketball coach and an assistant football coach there. Did a little junior high football starting off, and was the assistant basketball coach for a year, then took the head job after my first year in teaching. And I was the head basketball coach there for 3 years. Then had a chance to go home, go back to Leeds as offense coordinator and assistant basketball coach there. So took that job, and after 2 years there as an assistant, I took the head job and was the head football coach there for 10 years. And then went to Pell City after 10 years as a head coach at Leeds, and had some success there, and went to Pell City. In the past 2 years, I've been at Pell City High School, and it's been a great experience for me. Been in the playoffs the past couple of years, and the kids there are great, and the community's great.
And talking about he's a little bit modest on this. I'm not. I'm not the bashful kind, the old saying goes, when it comes to pointing out positive things. But at Leeds High School were the 4 championships your teams, weren't they?
Yes, sir.
And so 4 championships in that 10-year period.
Yes,
were you a head coach for 10 or 8?
Yes, sir. I was the head coach for 10 years there. We played for 5 state championships in my 10 years, and we won 4 of them. And I was also an assistant on the state championship basketball team there under Mike Turner, who is now the principal at Pinson High School.
Right.
So they won a state championship in football this year. So.
Well, I tell you what, it's amazing how people's, and coaches in particular, how their life evolves and sometimes start out in coaching, end up in the principal, action of it, and the administration action. And so the lives for coaches and other personnel take different turns, don't they?
Absolutely. I feel like the Lord leads your steps. You just follow where He takes you.
Well, I was curious about that too. So when you were the basketball coach there at Irwin, you were involved in football.
Absolutely.
And then that led you from leaving Irwin. That's when the opportunity came for you to go home, as the old saying goes. Because as he pointed out, in case you might have missed it, he is a Leeds graduate. And so talk about that too, being a coach, and it doesn't really matter what a venue it is, where it's professional, college or high school, although I think it hits a lot closer to home for the high school coach. Talk about what it's like to get to go back to your alma mater. Was that a goal, or is it one of those things that maybe in the back of your mind, if that opportunity ever came along,
yeah, it's one of them things that if the opportunity ever comes along, a lot of times people jump at that. A lot of people are scared to do it because one thing, if you have a path somewhere, you sort of don't want to go back to that. Right. Luckily, I had a great high school career, and I met some great people while I was in high school, and had some people who were great influences on me. My high school coach, Coach Fairley, was a great influence on me. My high school basketball coach, Andrew Brisky, who gave me my first job out of college, was a great influence on me. So, I had some great experiences at Leeds, and, when I had the opportunity to go back, of course, I jumped at it. And, the situation there was that, they hadn't been very successful, and, we were going to go in and try to change that around. And I think, over my 12 years there, we did a good job of it. We wanted to be mentioned in those schools like the T.R. Millers and the Sweetwaters and all the teams that were very, very successful in the smaller classifications, during that time, the Deschlers and all those schools, And it's funny, because as the years go by, you end up playing those teams, and we got some big wins against some of those teams, and it's just amazing how far, kids can take a program when they really believe in it.
Well, I know when we get into the second segment that we're going to do, we're going to talk about how some of the integration happened there on your part to end up from being up here to where you're going, and we'll sort of save that for the next section. But talking about your initial getting into coaching, because I talk with a lot of coaches, as you know, from what I've done all these years, Keith, and did you start out, was your goal to be a high school coach one day?
Well, you know, I've always loved coaching. I've always said it's the closest you can get to playing. When you get done playing, I think coaching's the closest thing you can get to it. You know, those Friday nights or, you know, Saturdays in college, you know, those highs, all that adrenaline going, you know, right before game time and stuff. That's so exciting. And, you know, as a coach, you get those same feelings. You get that, you know, butterflies in your stomach and all that stuff. And I love that feeling, you know. And I started out, I was actually going to go into broadcasting. You know, really, yeah. So I got
You're
in
going
college.
to take my job.
No, we're going to work together, Snapper.
Okay, that sounds good.
I actually was going to go into broadcasting and do sports broadcasting and things like that. And I got in college, and you know, it's sort of one of them things where I started helping with some little league programs and started helping with some other programs, and you know, I sort of, you know, got that love and got that itch for being back in coaching. Right. So I ended up changing my major. So.
Well, the reason I asked you that question, Coach, is because I have said this on the air many times talking to other coaches, and sometimes I'll tell the kids and talk with them about this and throw this little caveat in that. But I said, when you sit down and as I do and talk with a lot of these coaches, very few of them started out with the idea, I'm going to be a high school coach.
Right.
That the profession or what they thought they wanted to do was something else.
Right.
But for the love of the sports or the opportunities come along,
right,
and they get to take that, and as the old saying goes, as with you and other coaches, the rest is history.
Right.
But it wasn't not that you came out of the gate saying, I'm going to be a high school coach.
No, sir. When I graduated high school, I wanted to go into broadcasting or either physical therapy.
Well, I tell you what, I think all of the people that you've been associated with the last few years are tickled to death that you made that change.
Well, I hope so.
But I tell people too, coaching, there's two sides to the coaches, and so what I want to talk to you about just for a minute or two is the fact that one, coaches prepare their athletes to participate in whatever sport with the best they can be, both independently and team-wise. Right. But also, the second part that to me is just as important, if not more so, and I want you to expand on this a little bit and how it affects your personal life, is that you and other coaches such as yourself prepare these young athletes not only for that program, but for also life after high school.
Absolutely. That's what it's about.
And talk about that, because I think a lot of times people think that football coaching is all it is. No, it's not.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you know, I talked about my coaches having a great impact on me growing up. I was from a single parent home. My father died in the military. My mother raised 3 boys by herself, and you know, I had some great coaches coming up. So, you know, I just wanted to make an impact like they did on my life. You know, be a positive impact on them. Be somebody that they could count on, that they could trust. You know, somebody that can help teach them, you know, the everyday right and wrongs. You know, and kids are going to make mistakes. You know, and all kids do. And I tell kids all the time, it's not the mistakes that you make; it's how you handle those mistakes and what you do to correct them. And you know, that determines what kind of man you're going to be. So, you know, it's everyday life. You know, you just prepare the kids best you can for everyday life. You know, they're going to have tough times, and you know, it's just fighting through those tough times and getting to those good ones.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, I've enjoyed this first segment. The second segment, we're going to talk about a very important change that you're making. Folks, you're going to find out where he's going, but not till we come back. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll spend more time with Coach Keith Etheredge as he gets ready to make a major move in his life. We'll be right back. The next time you need electrical work, whether it be commercial or residential, you need to call Huffman Electrical Contractors, a company that's been in business for over 35 years. They've served clients not only locally in the Birmingham area and all over the state, but have clients outside the state of Alabama as well. Whether it's a new building or remodeling an older building or home, they can handle the job for you. Once again, that's Huffman Electrical Contractors. The number to call is 205-661-5005. That's 205-661-5005. Where at Huffman Electrical Contractors, a satisfied customer is always their number one objective.
At Andrew Sports Medicine, we partner with our patients, trying to help them overcome the obstacles that keep them from achieving their goals.
This practice aggressively pursues victory over injury, over pain, over limitation, over anything that's going to keep you from being the best you can be.
It starts with our non-surgical physicians who are trained in sports medicine, orthopedic injuries. We have specialists in sports medicine with shoulders, elbows, and knees. We have hip specialists that do only hip surgery, including arthroscopy, minimally invasive resurfacing, and total hip replacement if needed. We have joint replacement surgeons. We have spine surgeons. We have surgeons that specialize in foot and ankle surgery and in hand surgery. So just about all the specialties of orthopedics are covered at Andrews Sports Medicine.
What makes the great surgeons great is their volume of experience at making decisions, whether that's intraoperative decisions, postoperative decisions, preoperative decisions, the decision to operate on somebody or not operate on them. And so our volume here breeds good decision making. That gives us an edge in terms of making decisions for our patients, which ultimately is a lot of times the difference between success and failure. The teams, the players, the parents have confidence in us because they know we're going to communicate with them, we're going to create a plan unique to that athlete or that person, and we're going to get them back to their thing as quickly and as safely as we can.
At Andrews Sports Medicine, our mission is to partner with our patients and to help them succeed and achieve victory. Whether you're a weekend warrior, a grandparent with a shoulder problem, or a professional athlete, you get the same care, the same high-level technology, the same aggressiveness that we would in a professional athlete, and we treat everyone the same way. None of us like to lose. We're all very competitive, and we're not going to lose against their illness or their injury.
The community features a world-class resort and spa, the amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course, miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. No, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
And folks, welcome back. As we remind you once again, we're visiting with Coach Keith Etheredge, about to be an ex-coach here in the Birmingham area, because Keith, after almost 20 years
Yes, sir.
in the coaching business, is making a move. And where are you going to call this new home?
We're going to go down to Bruton, Alabama, go to T.R. Miller High School.
I tell you what, I was sort of shocked when I first heard about this because of two reasons. Because I know what an outstanding coach Coach Etheredge is, and what a great job he's done at the three schools he's been at. But we've also become close friends over the years, and you hate to lose close friends. But change has come in our life, and Coach, I know you talked a little bit about especially the championships you've had, the playoff games you've had, and maybe those had an impact on how you've ended up there. Share with our viewers what you can say along that line and how you have ended up with this opportunity at T.R. Miller.
Well, you know, Dr. Varner is the superintendent down there. He's a great guy. You know, Mr. Snell's the principal down there, another great guy. I got a call from them. It's probably about a month and a half ago, right after football season was over with, and they just wanted to talk to me. Of course, you know, I've known Dr. Varner for a couple years. You know, when I made the move from Leeds to Pell City, we had spoken a little bit, and I just really enjoyed our conversation and getting to know him, and he's a class act guy, you know. And when he called me and wanted to speak to me, of course, you know, T.R. Miller's one of those places with tons of history. You know, Jamie Riggs was there for 28 years and did a phenomenal job there, and won, I think, 4 state championships and played for multiple more. So, you know, won, you know, right at 300 ball games, close to 300 ball games. So, you know, just a lot of success at T.R. Miller, and it's one of them things where, you know, it was felt like a good fit and felt like something that I would be interested in, you know. And of course, when Dr. Varner, we got in front of Dr. Varner, and Dr. Varner and Mr. Snell, you know, started selling it to me, it was an amazing opportunity, you know. And like I said, I loved Pell City, and I told Dr. Varner when he called, you know, I'm happy where I'm at, and great people here, and, you know, it's just, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways, though, and I think it's going to be a great situation for me and my family.
Well, I know, and I didn't completely know the answer to all this till you showed up tonight for our show, but I wasn't sure about the timing of when you would be leaving. Of course, sometimes you have to wait to the end of the school year. Other times you have the opportunity. And when you told me, because we thought about a show change, but because of your schedule, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
And so I didn't do that. And talk about that, because what it is, the main reason, and on the way to the show tonight, I got to thinking about it because we hadn't talked about it.
Right.
I bet it's where he can be there and go through spring training and see what he's going to be dealing with in the fall.
Absolutely. You get there to get familiar with the kids that you're going to be coaching. Also, I love being involved in other sports. You know, they got basketball going on right now. They'll have softball and baseball, girls basketball, and all that stuff. And, you know, I like to be involved with all the kids, not just the kids who are going to play football, you know, and I'll be the athletic director there. So that's big, to get in there, get familiarized with the kids, get familiarized with the coaches who are on staff there. They got a great coaching staff there right now. So it's going to be a situation where I can get there, get everything laid out for the spring, and just get ready to get started and we're going to get T.R. Miller back to the state championship level.
Well, just a couple of thoughts along those lines, and one has to do, and in high school coaching, this happens sometimes. We do not know if it will at all or to what degree, but sometimes a head coach will take some of his assistants.
Yes,
and
sir.
I think as we talked, you don't know what that situation is right now. Possibility it could happen, maybe not. But sometimes that happens even in high school,
Absolutely.
like in colleges it does. So there is an opportunity. You may be having some familiarity there
Yes,
as
sir.
well. But I know you have to know just a little bit about their background. Or do they play the kind of football where that you coach? And what I mean by that, is there a certain system does it run? Is it similar to what you've been doing?
And that's what, you know, it's sort of weird because, you know, a lot of the stuff that Coach Riggs did when he was there is a lot similar to what I did at Leeds and what we did at Leeds. You know, of course, you're going to adjust to what kind of athletes you have. I love the downhill style. I love getting in the eye and running the football, you know. So, and they're a downhill type team. They predicate a lot of stuff off defense, off pressure, off, you know, getting to the football and just, you know, flying around on defense. And, you know, I love that style. A lot of the style that we played at Leeds, you know, and so there's a lot of similarities there. We actually played them in the third round of state playoffs. 2013, I think, and they were 12-0 coming into the game, and I think we were ranked in the top 5, and you know, it was one of those games that were just back and forth, and we ended up winning the game, but it was a close one. They turned the ball over a couple of times, which ended up helping us, but it was one of those that was a very, very physical football game, and it's a lot of the same style. You know, it's almost like putting yourself in a mirror and playing yourself. You know, so the style is very, very similar. It's the style that I love to play, and you know, they're known for down in Bruton, Alabama, at T.R. Miller, and you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's not going to be a lot of change for the kids.
Well, I know you and I had also talked about this too, that it seems like it goes in cycles where the power in football is in the state of Alabama.
Right.
And right now, in the last few years, it's been south and northern, not north and southern.
Right.
But down south around the Mobile area and the Birmingham area have been the two hotbeds. And we call the others major hotbeds, the Huntsville area and Montgomery area.
Right.
And I guarantee you the last few years, Birmingham and Mobile has dominated.
Absolutely. You know, there's some great teams down there. And I always said it, you know, even when we were playing with Leeds up here, you know, when I was at Leeds here, I said the state championship's going to run through Mobile. You know, they have UMS Wright down there. They have T.R. Miller down there. And, you know, any type of state championship that you have, it's either going to run through Mobile or it's going to run through Birmingham with the larger classifications like the Hoovers and the Vestavians and all those type teams, you know. So, you know, it's one of them things where the great football is you know, you get spots, but there's always going to be great football in the Birmingham area,
Right.
and there's always going to be great football in the Mobile area.
Well, and it seems like you're going to end up with pretty good football wherever you've been so far. So but that's an opportunity and a
Absolutely.
challenge as well. The one other thing I want to talk to you just a few moments as time is flying by, going into a new school, and they're 3A, which means they're not a
Right.
real big school. So
Right.
it's even more imperative, I think, that where this spring training is going to come in to
Absolutely.
be a great benefit to you. You learn what athletes you've got, because in the situation you're going into, and you've done it before, you've got those players that have to go two ways.
Absolutely, and
And
I love
that's
that.
a challenge, isn't
I
it?
love that situation. You know, I loved it at Leeds. I love having kids that push themselves to a limit, you know, and overcome obstacles. And you know, and my thing is, you know, being at a smaller school allows you to develop relationships. And I truly believe, and me and you've talked about this, you know, the relationships you develop with not only the players, the other coaches, the media, the administration, the other teachers, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, the relationships you develop with people, you know, because one day all the football and stuff can be gone.
Right.
And then it's going to be all about the relationships. you
Right,
develop.
and you hope that those relationships have caused positive influences.
Absolutely.
And most of the time it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
You've had people that have had that kind of influence on you, and believe it or not, there are a lot of people that look to you for some of those positive lessons we got to have in life. But I tell you what, I don't expect anything but success out of you down there. I know I feel like a lot of other people probably here in the Birmingham area feel. We hate to see you go, but life is all about changing sometimes. And sometimes when we adapt and make those changes, it's not to stay where we were in a familiar surrounding. It's to go to tackle that new adventure out there.
Absolutely. It's not easy. It's not easy picking your family up and moving 4
Right.
hours. And that makes it, you know, it's tough. It's tough to walk in and tell your kids that you're leaving, you know, that kind of thing is tough. But, you know, in the coaching profession, it's something that you deal with. And like I said, the Lord has a plan. So just follow in the
I
footsteps.
tell you what, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to go and execute it.
Well, thank
I
you.
wish you all the luck in the world. We hate to see you go, but that opportunity that lies out there, the best of luck to you and your family in the
Thank you,
future.
sir. I appreciate
And
it.
folks, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, another special guest. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
The community features a world-class resort and spa, the amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course, miles of historic trails, and the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. Now, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
And this will be your premium right here.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I combined home and auto with State Farm.
Saved $760.
Love this guy.
Okay, does it bother anybody else that the mime is talking? Freaky.
Bundle home and auto, and you could save $760.
That's 760 very good reasons to call Alan Gurdeau in Trussville today.
And folks, welcome back. And as I talked about in our opening, that we had a very special guest on for the second half of the show. And of course, we're talking about Josh Bean, AL.com sports writer. And Josh, awfully good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
I hope you and your family has a great holiday
It did. It was
season.
wonderful for us.
But as I told you a while ago, I'm sort of glad for it to get a little bit back to normal now. But what I thought we'd do tonight, Josh, is first of all, in our first segment, we'll talk a little football because we had 3 teams here in the Birmingham area that had a chance to win championships, and a couple of them did. And we're going to talk about the football scene in the first segment. The second segment, we're going to talk about, of course, as I said in the opening, we're into our winter sports, which is boys and girls basketball, wrestling, indoor track, and bowling, I believe. And so we'll try to get as many of those guests and coaches as we possibly can. But in our first segment, talk about football, which is always important to us. And when we left the air for our Christmas break, all the playoff games were not over with, so we couldn't really talk about who won, but we could talk about who were involved. And I guess what we'll do is we'll start with 5A first, because we had 3 teams playing. And of course, Fred Yancey once again did a fantastic job down at Briarwood. Did it surprise you the year that they had?
You know, not really. You know, the previous year they made it to the semifinals. They had a lot of guys back. They were a veteran team. So I think everybody expected them to be a real player for the championship. But, you know, they moved to number 1 early in the season, stayed there all year. And so, you know, I think they probably came into this season with more expectations than Briarwood had had for a while. But the team really lived up to it. That was such an amazing championship game with St. Paul's. You know, it was a tough, tense game throughout. And, you know, the truth is, St. Paul's turned to Jalen Armour Davis, their senior who signed with Alabama, and he made a big play at the end of the game. And that's sort of what, you know, you sort of expected them to turn to him, but it was on offense. It wasn't a defensive play. And then, of course, they went down and punched it in and were able to defeat Briarwood. But that was a great game, and both teams, you know, played so well in that game. The thing that really, I was so impressed with the way Fred Yancey handled the post game. You know, he was so poised, and their team was so poised, and he just basically said, "Look, we played a great team. We had a great season. This loss doesn't diminish anything that we did." I mean, everything that he said and did after the game is the classy way you hope someone handles that situation. And of course, it wasn't his first rodeo. He's played for championships before, but you know, I was impressed with the way they played, but I was also impressed with the way they handled the loss. I mean, I really believe you learn a lot about somebody with the way they handle a loss and not a win, and he handled it. He and his team handled it as perfectly as you could.
Well, as I tell people all the time, in this business, it's easy to be a winner.
Well, I mean, everybody, it's easy to handle yourself well when you win because you're so happy. And it is, you know, they lost it in the last few moments. It was a crushing way to lose, but to see how they handled themselves after the game with class and dignity, and really they praised St. Paul's and said, "Look, that's a great team. They made some great plays, and we just came up a little bit short." I thought that's exactly the way you would hope a team would handle it, and they did.
Well, now see, some teams, and we'll be talking about one a little bit later in this segment, but some teams, just for lack of a better way to put it, just reload for the next year. Now, with having said that, you're probably a little more familiar with that situation than I am, but did Coach Yancey lose a ton of talent off this team?
Well, you know, I believe they do lose their quarterback, but you know, their best offensive weapon all year long was their tailback, J.R. Tranrino. He'll be back, and he was, to be fair, he was probably their best football player overall. They used him mostly on offense, but you know, he could be an all-state defensive back. He's, you know, he helps in the kicking game and the return game, so he'll be back. That's a great place for them to start when you think about that 2018 season. He's already started 2 seasons for Briarwood, and you know, I mean, he had a great junior season. You expect him to have an even better senior one.
Well, now we talked about 3 teams being in championship games, and of course, Briarwood comes up short. Then that moves us up to the 6A and Pinson Valley.
You know, that was such a magical season for Pinson Valley, and it was, you know, you just wondered how that was going to work out. They went through a coaching change. You know, it's 13 months ago now. Patrick Nix arrives with his son, Bo Nix, the quarterback. And so you wonder, how quickly will he be able to get his program going, and how quickly will Bo be able to create the kind of chemistry that you want with those receivers and into offense. But everything worked perfectly. Aside from Bo getting hurt during the season, you know, he missed 4 games with a leg injury. But once he came back, you know, offensively they weren't quite as explosive without Bo. So when he came back, it really gave them a more explosive offense. And then, you know, they played a classic semifinal game. You know, they came back, won on the road in overtime to beat Austin 51-50. You know, they went for 2 and made it happen. You know, Bo threw a pass for the 2-point conversion. And then in the championship game, they just played so well. You know, the first half they struggled offensively, but their defense really did a great job against a Wetumpka offense that almost nobody had slowed down. And then in the second half, Bo got it going. You know, he ran for 2 touchdowns, threw for 1. Lee Allen Daly, their wide receiver, played really well in the second half. He caught a touchdown. That gave him 24 for the season, which 23 of those were receptions. That's a big number for a high school wide receiver. So their explosiveness offensively, you know, really took over in the second half. But, you know, it was the first undefeated season in Pinson Valley history, the first state championship. And then, you know, Bo Nix is only a junior, so we hope we'll get to see some big things.
Well, and the other thing that impressed me was the backup quarterback that they had, that those 4 games Bo was out, it's like they didn't miss a lick.
They didn't. And, you know, of course, part of that is, you know, that offense was more than just Bo. They had some very explosive receivers. They ran the ball well. Their offensive front did a great job of protecting Bo or whomever was back there. And, you know, one of those games, even Jackie Matthews came in, the senior who had played quarterback as a junior. He converted to a very good defensive back, but he took some snaps even. So they found some interesting ways to make up for Bo being out. But once he came back, you know, I think Patrick Nix basically instructed him in those first few games, do not scramble. You know, don't you know, we want you to be as healthy as possible for the playoffs. That worked out. He ran the ball a little more those last couple of weeks when he got as healthy as possible. But, you know, he played great, and I think Bo has chosen not to play basketball so that his leg can fully heal, and presumably, you know, so that he'll be 100% ready to go in 2018, you know, as they try to defend that 6A championship.
Well, and of course, then that brings us finally up to Class 7A and the Hoover Bucks. You know, I don't know how you feel about it. The way I talk to people about Hoover is Coach Niblett doesn't mind playing powerhouses.
Right, and you know, I think this year was probably his best coaching job at Hoover, and part of that is, you know, they lost 3 games. You know, and they played some really good people. They played Grayson out of Georgia. They played IMG Academy at home. You know, they lost to a really good Thompson team in a close game that was really a region championship game. And so you had those 3 losses, and for a lot of teams, you lose something. You lose like that, you know, it creates some doubt. But for Hoover, that did not happen. They still had that great belief and that swagger about themselves. They did, you know, they did not play well the first half against IMG. The second half, they came out and really took it to that IMG team. And I think in a lot of ways that was a turning point for them. They realized, hey, this is one of the best high school teams in the country. They got a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys, and we outplayed them for a half. So if we can do that, if we can duplicate that in the playoffs, we got a great chance to keep winning. And then to win the state championship, it meant they were going to have to beat Hewitt-Trussville, who was undefeated. They were going to have to beat Thompson, who was undefeated. They were going to have to beat McGill-Tulane, who was undefeated. And they did that. The last 3 games were they defeated undefeated teams. That was really amazing. And so that's one of the reasons I say I think this was Josh's best coaching job. And it's a big reason that, you know, with our Super All-State team at AL.com, we named him as our all-class coach of the year.
And I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised to see them battling for a championship again next year.
Look, I mean, you mentioned that they're one of those teams that you just expect them to reload. You know, they have a great blueprint. You know, they're always great in the kicking game. Defensively, they're fast and aggressive every year. And they've developed this identity of running the ball. That's not the sexiest way to win, but boy, you know, it works for Nick Saban at Alabama. It's working for Hoover.
And I tell you what, what's working for us is that's going to work us into our second segment, and we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we're going to talk about the in-season sports right now and who may be the powerhouses in them. So don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven. A taste of heaven is always best. Now you know that you're blessed. Give your taste a whole new spin. Bring your friends and come on in. Take your taste to a different place. It's the taste of hamburger heaven.
The community features a world-class resort and spa. The amazing Robert Trent Jones Trail Golf Course. Miles of historic trails. And the whole family loves the pool at Ross Park. No, are we gonna have to watch your vacation slides all night?
This was supposed to be a party.
Well, this isn't my vacation. I live here.
Ooh.
The next time you need electrical work, whether it be commercial or residential, you need to call Huffman Electrical Contractors, a company that's been in business for over 35 years. They've served clients not only locally in the Birmingham area and all over the state, but have clients outside the state of Alabama as well. Whether it's a new building or remodeling an older building or home, they can handle the job for you. Once again, that's Huffman Electrical Contractors. The number to call is 205-661-5005. That's 205-661-5005. Where at Huffman Electrical Contractors, a satisfied customer is always their #1 objective. And folks, welcome back. And as we talked about earlier in this segment with Josh Bean, AL.com high school sports writer, we're going to talk about the in-season sports. And it starts off, of course, with basketball, boys and girls basketball. So talking from the boys' standpoint, one of the first teams I think about is Mountain Brook.
Yeah, I mean, the Birmingham area this year is one that has a bunch of really good teams. You know, Mountain Brook, Huffman, Pinson Valley, Ramsey, Hoover. I think all of those teams are teams at midfield. Again, those are all teams with a legitimate chance to win the whole thing. You look around, Helena's a team that's 14-1. I think Parker's a team that's really good. So we got a lot of teams in the mix that have played themselves into this conversation of saying, oh, these are teams that really have a chance to make a bunch of noise. Now that we're in January, that means area play begins. And, I think this is when teams really start getting serious about it. But that Mountain Brook team, they went to the City of Palms down in Florida, played really well. Didn't win the tournament, but played really well. And Trenton Watford has been, he's played like Mr. Basketball all year long. 6'8", a junior. He has the ability to play inside and out. And, he seems to have taken that next step. He's more explosive. He's stronger. He's when you look at him physically, he's begun to fill out into that 6'8" frame. He's probably added 15 pounds of muscle since last year. I mean, he's looked great. He's played great. As long as he's playing like that, they're going to be a very tough out.
Who do you see, other than Mountain Brook, who do you see on the boys' side really making maybe a run here?
Well, I think Huffman is the team. That's the team. They won the Steel City. They went to another holiday tournament out of state and lost there, but they have not lost to a team inside the borders of Alabama. And Tavares Carroll, their senior, is a really good player. They just they don't have that one Mr. Basketball type of a guy. And they don't. It's not like they have a 7-footer out there roaming around the lane, but they just they know how to win. They had a great year last year, of course, and played an amazing game in the Northeast Region Final with Mountain Brook and lost a close one there. They had beaten Mountain Brook just before that to win the area championship. So, those two teams will be locked up. It's unfortunate they both can't get to the state semifinals in Birmingham because they'll end up in the same region again. But that Huffman team is so good and so strong. They got a lot of different people that can score and handle the ball for them. I think that's a team to watch. This Pinson Valley team, I think sometimes we forget that was a team that made a deep regional run last year, but most of those guys are back. They struggled a little bit in the early part of the season, but I think we all expected that. All those guys, not all of them, but they had a number of key guys who were still playing football. So that went into essentially the middle of December. Then those guys get on the basketball court. I expect that to be a team in January to start making some noise. I think they're in the same area with Fairfield, who should be good again. I mentioned that Helena team only has one loss. A team that struggled a little bit is Pelham. It's another team that made it to a regional final last year. Of course, Alex Reese is now at Alabama, but Justin Allison, their point guard, has played great. He had 44 in a game already this year. And that's a team that, because Allison is such a dynamic player, you just wonder, if he gets hot at the right time, how far could that team go?
Well, let me ask you this. In Class 5A, Winona, are they the team to beat again?
Yeah, I mean, that's a team that does have a victory over Mountain Brook from early in the year. I think they're a really good team. I think they have a lot of potential. I think they're 15-5 right now. And they started off hot, despite having some guys, that was a football playoff team too. So they had some guys still playing football, but Carlos Rogers, their senior guard, who was the quarterback on the football team, is a dynamic player, has a lot of experience. I think that's a team in 5A to watch. And you start getting into the smaller classifications. Remember, Midfield's the defending 3A champ.
Right.
They have virtually everybody back, and they only have one senior on that team. I think that's Keenan Isaac, the football coach's son, and they are really good. I got to see them in the Steel City. They are athletic, and they have a dynamic point guard. Anthony Brown, who was a quarterback on the football team, he's a 6'5" guy who can really get up and down, a very explosive player. So, when you start talking about, hey, who are the very best teams, the Mountain Brooks and the Huffmans, and Hoover is also very good. Those teams are probably the cream of the crop in Birmingham. But that midfield team, once we get to the playoffs, they're going to play all these bigger schools during the season. But once they get into area play and then get into the postseason where they're playing other 3A teams, I think their schedule really helps them.
All right, then let's go over to the girls' side of the ledger. In Class 7A, is Hoover the team to beat again?
Yes, they've played great all year. They're making some noise in the national rankings. They've been fantastic. I think Spain Park is an intriguing team. Jay Barker's daughter is a very good player. He's getting a lot of SEC interest. They played in the Steel City in the single girls game in the Steel City, but she missed the game. She missed a few games in December with a concussion, but I think she'll be back and healthy and ready to go. She's a dynamic player and can make some noise. But yes, Hoover, I think, has clearly established itself as a team to beat in 7A.
Okay, and 6A.
Well, I say team to beat. I think Hoover, I think we probably all expected it to end up being Hoover and Sparkman. I think those two teams played last year in Birmingham. Can't remember the semifinals and finals, but I think that's sort of the collision course we're all looking toward.
Well, when you get into 6A with the girls, of course, Ramsey and Homewood is probably going to have a pretty good team.
Yeah,
this year.
Homewood has struggled a little bit. They lost some players from last year, but Hannah Barber, the point guard who's going to Alabama, is still back, and she is, she's a dynamic, playmaking kind of a player. She's probably not the kind of player that's going to put up 50, but she distributes the ball so well and controls the tempo, does what they want to do. They'll still be a player, but they have struggled a little bit. Ramsey, I think, is a team that's played really well in the early part of the season, and has shown that's a team that could make some noise.
So I know in Class 5A, when we're talking about the girls, Winona is still another strong team.
They play a style that they are so comfortable with. Coach has been there for a long time. They understand what they're doing. They understand how to attack other teams. And they just put so much pressure on you with the way that they play. So, they won it last year. Anytime you're the defending champ, it puts a little bit of a target on your back. But that's a team that, every year we get in January and we say, okay, Winona's going to be a player here.
When I know we don't have but a couple of minutes left, I know there's some good wrestling teams here in the Birmingham area. Is there any team that sticks out that looks like they could possibly be a team that could end up vying for a state championship?
Yeah, wrestling, I'll be honest with you, wrestling is one of those teams that it floats under the radar a little bit for me. You end up with football and then you move into basketball, and those are the ones that you're paying the most attention to. But, historically, of course, Thompson's very good year after year after year. I think Shades Valley is a program that has certainly made some positive strides the last few seasons and has done something and made some positive things happen. So I think those are two programs that are really interesting. this weekend will be the county wrestling tournament. I think Oak Grove is the host this year. And I think that once we get to that point in the year, it gives me a chance to say, okay, here are some wrestlers, the guys who are winning county championships, you expect, okay, those are guys who can really have an opportunity to win a state championship. Same way with the teams to kind of see how they stack up.
And then, of course, the indoor track, they are limited to how much they can run because of the indoor situation. But the strong teams always Mountain Brook, Hoover.
Yes, yes. And, part of that, of course, is the number of athletes that they have participating. One of the really good things for indoor track athletes here in Birmingham is the Crossplex is right here.
Right.
So, it's one of the best indoor track facilities in the country. And when they have some of these early season meets, certainly from around the South, you'll also have teams come, and kids will run some blazing fast times there. So, it'll be fun to watch. And, I don't know if we'll have anything like, we saw Trey Cunningham from Winfield last year set a junior national record. I'm not sure we'll see something like that, but indoor state championships, we usually have some really cool stuff happening there.
Well, I tell you what, Josh, the time gets away. Those segments go by fast, and your knowledge, I appreciate your expertise in the job that you do. You're great at what you do, and you provide a lot of positive information for us to share with our viewers.
Yeah.
Always good to sit down and visit with you.
Same.
And we'll have to do it in the spring and sort of give an overview or sort of wrap up a year and see how that goes in the spring sports. But always good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And folks, we look forward to next week. More coaches, more athletes. And once again, thanks to our guests we've had tonight. Of course, talking about Keith Etheredge, who's going football coach down south, T.R. Miller, and Josh Bean of AL.com. Always good to have Josh with us. But till next week, you know what the Snapper always says, see you down the road, and bye.